We're talking balloons and borders. You know, the presence of a Chinese surveillance balloon in American airspace last week made it difficult to not. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Making the connection between the breaching of U.S. territory in the sky and the ongoing crisis at our southern border. You know, another commonality they share is the lackluster response from the Biden administration to each of them. Oh, okay, we just got a balloon passing across, gathering intelligence. We just have, hundreds of thousands of people crossing our border. Some of them threats to America. So how does this reflect on the administration's regard for both our national security and our national sovereignty? Joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Michael Cloud. He serves on the House Committee on Oversight and Reform or Accountability now, and the House Agriculture Committee. He represents the 27th Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Cloud, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you. Good to be on with you once again.
Well, you have been on our southern border. You've been very outspoken about this. I mean, look, is there not a strong comparison between the two?
There's definitely a comparison in the sense that we have an administration that really doesn't have the safety and the security of America paramount. And whatever's motivating them to really let down the guard of the United States of America and let really so many evil things into our country is really troubling. And the fact that this balloon was able to fly all the way across for the United States before we took action on it is really troubling, but it's kind of a sign. The good news of it is the American people are seeing really China's intent and their willingness to act against us. They've been doing this in so many nefarious ways, kind of under the radar for those people who aren't really paying attention to it. But we've got to take this seriously, and hopefully this will be a wake-up call for America.
I mean, at one point, the balloon appeared over Montana, which is home to one of the U.S.'s 3 nuclear missile silos. I mean, how could the administration allow this to happen? I mean, they could see the flight path that this thing was going on.
It's hard to know what they're thinking, but I'll tell you this. One of the things that I keep coming back to in all of this is, ironically, in the Ukraine, Biden, as vice president, said, we are trying to create a multipolar world. In other words, at the time, the United States had the strength that was paramount, and his goal was to create a world in which the United States was not a supreme power. And so you look at that, everything that's happening from Afghanistan to this and many other things in light of the context of that, and some of these things are like, I wonder what's happening here. I've asked this question of military officials who come to Congress and want us to fund defense apparatus, in which we definitely need to. It's a major priority, if not the most important priority of Congress. But when we're funding both sides in the sense to strengthen the United States, but also strengthen countries that would be opposed to us, you wonder what's going on here. And so we need an administration that puts the United States of America first, not only because of the United States, but really what we've seen, what happens in the world. We're such a force for good in the world when the United States has the strong, shining light that it can be.
So, Congressman Cloud, tomorrow night the president gives his State of the Union address. I mean, you've got over 70% of Americans say the country's on the wrong track, and he's the conductor. How's he going to convince everybody that things are okay? We're talking about balloons floating across America, the border. There's a surge at our border. Talk about Ukraine. I mean, he's going to have you there all night to convince people that the country's on the right track.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they twist the numbers and do whatever they can to try to say that we're strong. Of course, it's come to the point where almost that has to be the closing line, that the United States is in a strong place. But to look back even a year or 2 years ago or a few years ago and say that we're stronger now, the American people, it's going to be this cognitive dissonance when the American people are at home going, okay, my dollar doesn't go as far as I do. I look at the safety and security of our neighborhoods. We're not as strong. Crime is rising. When I look at the safety and security of our country, countries like China are able to have their free will exercised within our borders. And so, it's a troubling place for us to be, and why we need definitely strong leadership in Washington and in the White House for sure.
What would you like to see President Biden say tomorrow night?
Oh, wow. I'd like to see him say he's securing the border, that we're going to get back to fiscal sound policy, that we're going to let the American energy worker do their best work and put us back on a sound footing. Our energy sector it affects so much, from food at the table, the price of food at the table, to our national security and influence abroad. And so, getting back to sound fiscal policies, getting back to letting the American worker do their best work, us getting back to securing our borders, I think would be a first huge step.
Congressman Cloud, I think he's probably going to be talking the opposite. I think he's going to be talking about his green agenda, which is killing jobs in the energy sector. I think he's going to talk not about fixing the border, but he's going to talk about Congress having to step up and provide a pathway to citizenship for those who are here in the country illegally.
Well, what we've seen in the past is these leftist ideas, they try to put them in terms of compassion. And really, when you look at the end results of them, for whatever the intent is, compassionate or not, the end results are definitely not compassionate. And so lives destroyed by cartels coming across the border, economies south of us, countries destabilized because we're allowing cartels to gain influence, to see the United States kicked down a notch and not able to be the strength and the light that we've been to the world over the last several decades is not compassionate. To allow despots to continue to gain authority across our border, but across the world, is not compassionate at all. And frankly, to allow evil to gain a foothold while good is suppressed is not compassionate at all.
You are absolutely right.
We've got to be able to see through these things and not take the bait, so to speak, or to head our heads in shame, but we've got to be able to stand up and stand for what's good and righteous.
You're absolutely right. Congressman Michael Cloud, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Good to see you. God bless.